Good morning, students. Today we are going to do our second chapter of First Flight, Long Walk to Freedom. The chapter is an extract from the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, who was a revolutionary political leader of South Africa and who became the first president of black president of South Africa. And he was elected president in 1994. And see here in this chapter he is describing the inaugural ceremony of the first democratically elected non-racial government of South Africa that took place on 10th of May 1994. So let's get started. Let's get straight to the chapter. Before going very deep into it, we'll have to consider 2 or 3 bullet points given here. See here, apartheid. The pronunciation of this word is apartheid or apartheid. Is a political system that separates people according to their race. So Nelson Mandela was an anti-apartheid personality who struggled hard against this practice. And what was that practice? The system that separates people according to their race. To their race means the people who belong to white skinned people or to the black people. They were separated. They were considered two different races in the country, and the blacks were treated, I should say ill-treated, very much ill-treated by the white people in the country. So Nelson Mandela was a person who led the nation against this practice, and finally he was successful in getting rid from this system. So can you say which of the 3 countries named below had such a political system until very recently? United States of America, South Africa, and Australia. Of course, surely it is South Africa, because he was the president of South Africa, and we are going to read the extract from his autobiography. So point number 2, have you heard of Nelson Mandela? Mandela and his African National Congress spent a lifetime fighting against apartheid. Mandela had to spend 30 years in prison. Finally, democratic elections were held in South Africa in 1994, and Mandela became the first black president of a new nation. So if you have not ever heard about Nelson Mandela, you can have an overview about his life and his works from this paragraph. He was the black president of free South Africa, and in 1994 he was elected the president. The democratic elections were held in South Africa, and he became the first black president of a new nation. In this extract from his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, Mandela speaks about a historic occasion, the inauguration, the opening ceremony. Can you guess what the occasion might be? Although I have already told you people, so you will be able to tell that it was his oath-taking ceremony. Check your guess with this news item from BBC of 10th May 1994. There was a broadcast from BBC London, British broadcasting company in London. And what did they broadcast on 10th of May 1994? See here. Mandela becomes South Africa's first black president. Nelson Mandela has become South Africa's first black president after more than 3 centuries of white rule. Means the country became free in 1994 from the white rule. Mr. Mandela's African National Congress party won 252 out of 400 seats in the first democratic elections of South Africa's history, and his party won 252 seats out of 400, so they were in majority. The inauguration ceremony took place in the Union Buildings amphitheater in Pretoria today. Pretoria was the capital city of South Africa, so they're in the Union Buildings amphitheater, in an open amphitheater amphitheater is an open building where ceremonies take place. It has got a stage. As you can see, the auditorium, we get a stage inside, and people can sit. A space has been provided there. So amphitheater is the open theater actually. So the inauguration ceremony, the opening ceremony, took place in the Union Buildings Amphitheater in Pretoria. Today means 10th of May 1994, attended by politicians and dignitaries from more than 140 countries around the world. So more than 140 famous people, very important famous people, and the politicians across the world attended the ceremony. Never again will this beautiful land experience the oppression of one by another, said Nelson Mandela in his address. So this line has been picked from Nelson Mandela's speech of the day. Never again will this beautiful land here refers to South Africa, will experience the oppression, means the ill treatment of one by another means now no more, from today onwards, no more white people will no more ill treat the black people of the nation. Jubilant scenes on the streets of Pretoria followed the ceremony, with blacks, whites, and coloreds celebrating together. Blacks, black Africans, white people, and colors means the mixed race people celebrating together. More than 100,000 South Africans, men, women, and children of all races sang and danced with joy. Why did they sing and dance with joy? Because the country had become free from the white rule, from the oppression of white rule. So this was the broadcast from BBC London, and now we come to know very easily, we can infer from here that they were talking about the inauguration ceremony of South African newly elected government. So there has been given an activity on the next page. I'm leaving this activity for you people to do at home, taking the help of dictionary. So let's get straight to our chapter. Okay, the first paragraph, the day of oath-taking ceremony. I can take from here the gist of the main idea of the paragraph. The day of oath-taking ceremony has been described here. 10th May dawned bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and the world leaders who were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration. 10th May dawned bright and clear. It was a bright and clear day. Bright and clear here stands for the positivity, for the new day in the history. It was the day of freedom. The South African people were breathing in the air of independence for the first time from the oppression. They were free from the oppression of the white people. So 10th May dawned bright and clear. The day was bright and clear, full of positivity, happiness. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged, surrounded by dignitaries, high-ranked people, and world leaders who were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration. Means the people across the world leaders, the high-ranked people, very famous people, they were coming all and over again to the president of South Africa to just give their compliments, or to say congratulations, or to pay their congratulatory wishes to him. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. And 10th of May, the inauguration ceremony, it would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders. Means not before 10th of May, the number of international leaders, the highest number of international leaders were supposed to come on 10th of May. Means before that, such a big number had never gathered on South African soil. Means there were not such no large gatherings before that inauguration ceremony in the country ever. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Pretoria was the capital city of South Africa. I have told you earlier. The ceremonies took place, means the function was organized in the lovely sandstone amphitheater. Sandstone means it's the material with which the amphitheater was built, formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. For decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy. Means the Union Buildings, only white people were allowed to enter in that building before that day. For decades, for many years, this had been the seat of white supremacy. This had been the seat. What the Union Buildings were just only white people were allowed to go there, and no blacks were allowed. So white supremacy. Now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. So for the very first time, the Union Building, the amphitheater of Union Building, will see the people from different colors and different races. They would gather there to have you can say to just see, to be the part of the history, to be the part of that inauguration ceremony that day. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Janani. On the podium, Mr. de Klerk was the first sworn in as second deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. So the very first thing he is going to describe to us on that lovely autumn day. I was accompanied by my daughter. Means when the ceremony began, I was accompanied by my daughter Janani, and on the podium, on the stage, Mr. de Klerk, he was the first who sworn in as the second deputy president. Then Mr. Thabo Mbeki, who sworn in as the first deputy president. When it was my turn, and after those two people sworn in, after they had sworn in, it was my turn to take the pledge. It was my turn to take the oath. I pledged to obey and uphold. Uphold means stand by the Constitution, and to devote myself to the well-being of Republic and its people. Then I vowed, I took an oath to obey and uphold the Constitution of the country, and to devote myself to the well-being, to the welfare of the Republic and its people. Who was the Republic and its people? The South Africa, the country of South Africa. To the assembled guests and the watching world, I said, and then I began my speech. Then I addressed the gathering there, the assembled guests, the gathering, the people who had come across the world. In the next paragraph, next 2 or 3 paragraphs, we will read Mandela's very famous speech. Today all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster. What do these words infer here? Extraordinary human disaster. He was talking about apartheid, the system of apartheid, where the black people were oppressed by the white people. That lasted too long. Means the black people had to suffer a long time in the hands of white people. Today all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory. Means here we are all giving hope glory and hope to the newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster, extraordinary human disaster stands for the system, apartheid system that lasted very, very long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. Means we have just got rid of that system, and the new society in which the humanity will, the new society, of course the coming generation will be proud of that society that we are going to make. So next is, we who were outlaws not so long ago, outlaws we who were outlaws means we were considered as the outcasts of the society. Means we were not considered even the parts of the society. We black people were not considered the parts of society. We were considered slaves rather than human beings. Not so long ago means it is not a long time since we were considered the slaves, have today been given the rare privilege. Now today we have got the advantage to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. Now we black people have got the opportunity, very, very rare opportunity, to host, to welcome to the nations of the world on our own soil. Means the people who have come across from the world, we are now taking the advantage to host them. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. So here is again a very long sentence. See here, we thank all of our distinguished means eminent, esteemed, renowned international guests who have for having come. Means we thank them all for coming, for sparing their time to take possession of the people of our country and to behold with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory. Means to be the beholders, to be the part of the history which we are going to make today, which we have made today, and they are just the beholders of that victory that is called the victory, common victory for justice, for peace, and for human dignity. Finally, we have achieved the victory for justice, for peace, and human dignity, and now the people across the world could see that they have come here, they have joined us in this ceremony to be the part of that victory celebration. Next is, we have at last achieved our political emancipation. Political emancipation means freedom. We pledge ourselves to liberty, all our people, from continuing bondage. Bondage means slavery of poverty, deprivation means distress, poverty, and penury, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. So people of South Africa were just they were suffering from the slavery of poverty. They were very poor people, they were distressed, they were again, deprivation is again the poverty, they were suffering gender and other discrimination. So those people were suffering a lot. Never, never, never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. So never means now we are free, and we will never ever again experience that ill treatment, that enslavement of one by another. Means the ill treatment of the white people and enslavement. They had made us slaves, and it will never happen again in future. The sun shall never set on so glorious means outstanding, magnificent a human achievement. Means the sun shall never set on, means we will never lose this magnificent, outstanding achievement of ours. Let's freedom reign. Reign means rule. God bless Africa. So these were the words which were spoken by Nelson Mandela on that day. Okay, let's very quickly go through the questions. Where did the ceremony take place? In the Union Buildings, in the amphitheater of Union Buildings, Pretoria. Can you name any public buildings in India that are made of sandstone? That is Supreme Court of India and the Rashtrapati Bhavan. We can say these are two examples I have written here. Can you see how 10th May is an autumn day in South Africa? On this day, the prolonged oppressive rule of whites ended and the democratically elected government was chosen. So that is why that was an autumn day in South Africa. Autumn day in South Africa, you understand that. It was the very historic day, and the people had got freedom from the oppressed rule of the whites, so they have called it an autumn day. Next, question number 3. At the beginning of his speech, Mandela mentions an extraordinary human disaster. What was that extraordinary human disaster? The system. Which system we had been talking about? Apartheid system. What does he mean by this? He meant by the discrimination, the oppression, and the inhuman treatment of that was faced by the black people under the British rule. White people, who were the white people under they were Britons. So what is the glorious human achievement? The glorious human achievement here stands for the democratically elected government in South Africa, with which the British rule ended there, and they got their new government, and they were free people then. Okay, question number 4. What does Mandela thank the international leaders for? So Mandela here is thanking the international leaders for supporting and celebrating the South Africans' achievements. What was their achievement? That they had become a free country, and for making it a common victory of justice, peace, and human dignity. That he called it the victory, not the victory of only South African people. He called it the victory of justice, peace, and human dignity. So he thanked all the international dignitaries for being there, for sparing their time and being present there in their inaugural ceremony. Okay, number 5. What ideals does he set for the future of South Africa? He says that the Africans were they had sought freedom. They had got freedom from bondage of poverty, deprivation, oppression, and discrimination based on gender and race. So the ideals that he is setting for the ideal of being free from the poverty, from poverty, deprivation and oppression and discrimination based on any caste, creed, gender, or any race. So that's all for today. In our next video we will continue with our second part of the chapter.